So very good afternoon to all our viewers and welcome to a new edition of The World Today, where we bring you all the latest news from all our websites online. Of course, I'm delighted to be joined this afternoon in the studio by our guest, Mr. Nader Khidr, the investment advisor. It's a very good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you.
Right, Mr. Nader, let's start straight away with news from Al-Ahram Online, and the Interior Ministry sends more medical missions to governorate prisons. The Interior Ministry sent medical missions to West Alexandria's Burg Al Arab prison and Bahira's Wadi Natrun prison as part of a campaign launched by the ministry mid-December to examine prisoners. Doctors of different specialities gave 4,952 treatments to different prisoners. Another medical mission will head to the 15th of May Central Prison in Cairo to examine 1,358 prisoners in the facility. Another mission is set to visit prisons and police holding facilities in Egypt's Bani Suef government. An interesting move. What do you think is the reason behind it, and how do you see these efforts? I'm sure they have come amid criticisms by activists and human rights and different groups of the deteriorating medical conditions.
Actually, what has been happening during the past years is the ministry has routine examination missions going to the prisons and the governorates, but they use the say that says, don't speak too much, make much. Accordingly, this wasn't working well with people of human rights and electronic media. Accordingly, the ministry has taken a new approach regarding such issue, announcing about its activities and movements regarding taking care of the exhibitees, the prisoners and the convicted ones and the prisoners. So it won't be taken against it.
Right. Let's go to the daily news. Egypt, and the headline reads, Egypt signs $500 million agreement with the African Export-Import Bank. Minister of Industry and Foreign Trade Tariq Qabil said that Egypt signed a $500 million agreement with the African Export-Import Bank to fund the country's exports to African countries. The Cairo-based bank had proposed last month to arrange a facility of up to $1 billion underwriting $500 million of the amount for the country's central bank to improve foreign currency liquidity. Through this program, the bank will support Egyptian companies in the process of exports, and the bank would also double the funding to $1 billion if the first is successful. How do you see such an agreement in your opinion?
Actually, this agreement comes along with the policy that has been set during the past 2 years under the presidency of Mr. President Fattah al-Sisi. As he stated, Egypt is coming back to Africa. We have to tie our relations again with our neighbors, with our family in Africa. Accordingly, going to the African Export and Development Bank is a move to support exports and importing raw material, to diversify our sources of raw material and dollars and foreign currency, of course, to make more sustainable structure for our financing and exporting models.
And how will this influence the Egyptian economy now with all the drives to...
Let's be clear about one thing. Our exports nearly is quarter our imports. So even if we doubled our exports, it won't be that much as our imports. But the positive thing here is we are working on, or the government is working on, along with the central bank, to control the devaluation of the Egyptian pound through founding new sources for foreign currency to support the foreign currency traded inside the country, and to support and to satisfy the needs of the foreign currency needed for importing raw material to produce products that could be exported to other countries, not only for self-satisfaction or for local market satisfaction. So the positive thing here, as I was saying, is diversifying sources of foreign currency, opening new markets. Maybe it won't be impacting us immediately or in the short term, but over the long term, we are having good ties with our neighbors, with our African allies, with our African cousins. This could support us on the political side after that, regarding negotiations in West Africa and the sources of the Nile, and regarding the Nahda Dam. All these things is a little bit tangled together. And of course, unless you have a good economic relations with the countries, they won't be supporting you on the political side.
Indeed. Since you are an investment advisor, I just wanted to ask you, Egypt last week signed a $1 billion loan deal with the World Bank as part of a $3 billion loan that will be dispersed over 3 years. How do you see, there's a lot of debate regarding loans from the IMF and what are we going to give in return, and what reforms and what sacrifices or subsidies that have to be let go, etc. How do you see
regarding the subsidy, let me make it clear, there is no current plan or obvious plan or announced plan for lifting subsidies again during the coming 6 months. However, Egypt did have a plan to remove full subsidies since 2007, over 5 years, which means we should have no subsidy since 3 years ago. But due to what happened in the financial crisis in 2008, and after that the Dubai loan crisis, after that the Greece loan crisis, and Italian and Portuguese, European issues, and after that we have 2011, all this had impacted the plan to be stopped. We have 3 phases remaining. We have executed 1 phase of them, and we have 2 still in the pipeline. So we are waiting to see when it's appropriate time to implement such 2 phases. To implement those 2 phases, we have to be taken in consideration the impact over the momentary inflation, the sudden increase in prices that happens in the same day the subsidy is lifted. This increase does not last. As we all remember, during the past year, there has been a hit around 12% or 15% on the essential commodities such as bread, flour, vegetables, meat, such commodities. But yet, it has been absorbed and it was sustained. The increase in prices was more or less felt, but not as what happened in 2007 and 2008. Okay, so to implement such 2 phases, we cannot implement them while we are trying to control the prices on the markets. According to President Sisi's speech last month, we already felt the variance in prices and the stability in prices during this month, especially in the highly priced commodities such as meat. Some places still sell it in £90, and some other places sell it in £59. So there is a diversification. So all levels could share this commodity. Okay, but now to implement such phases of lifting subsidies and trying to control the market price, I'm cancelling myself.
Not a wise plan. Right, let's go to the Daily Star Lebanon, and the headline reads, a deal to evacuate Syrian rebel militants is halted, according to Hezbollah TV. Lebanese Hezbollah's TV station said on Saturday that a UN-sponsored deal to give safe passage to more than 2,000 Daesh militants and other hardline insurgents holed up in a rebel-held South Damascus neighborhood had been suspended. It said the deal fell through after a top rebel commander, Zahran Aloush, was killed in an airstrike on Friday. The convoy carrying the fighters had been due to pass through territory he controlled en route to other ultimate destinations of Raqqa and de facto capital of the Daesh group in northern Syria. TV reports said coaches had arrived on Friday to pick up the fighters, and at least 1,500 family members had turned back. Now, seriously, let's take a look at this UN Security Council deal. It's offering a first time to find a serious solution to safe passage of the militants. Like, how do you view such a... And it didn't go through.
Of course it won't go through, because we would be talking nonsense if we believe that something like this, especially with the support of Hezbollah in the issue. It's totally humorous to talk something like this.
Right. That's enough said on that topic. Let's go to the Washington Post, and the headline reads, Iraqi troops close in on last Daesh foothold in Ramadi. Iraqi spokesperson said on Saturday that the troops pushed deeper into the heart of the last remaining district held by the Daesh terrorist group in the city of Ramadi. Recapturing the city, which fell to the militants in May, would be one of the most important victories achieved by Iraq's armed forces since Daesh swept across a third of the country in 2014. The soldiers advanced overnight in the neighborhood that houses the provincial government compound. And information about the situation on the ground, of course, is hard to verify. How do you view the aspects of the Iraqi army's actions and its influence in the situation
Actually,
of Iraq?
I'm seeing it as the prophecy of Mrs. Hillary Clinton in her book that Daesh will not last more than 5 years in the region. And it's so fragile. According to the reports, she started to oppose since 2007, 2008. This report stated that after the current era that we're having unipole in the global arena, we will have a triple pool: the Islamists and some country from the Middle East, which is most probably Egypt, and Russia, along with China. So this would be the power triangle in the new world, which is estimated to be by 2018, 2020.
So we're just a few years away.
Exactly. Since she received such reports, she started to oppose them and started to discuss them across the administration in the White House. And she already stated this in her book. And she said that the Islamists, even Al-Qaeda or whatever comes after to fill off its place, would be so fragile because there would be no ideological support during the coming period for such issue.
If the Iraqi troops manage to recapture or reclaim cities that were captured by the Daesh terrorist group, how important are such steps for the morale, even for neighboring countries, that you can defeat?
Not only the morale. Not only the morale.
Of course, obviously, politically, it's there's no
significant, great significance. For the Iraqi army, it would be a huge support, a huge self-confidence coming back, a huge reconciling actions. We have been hearing during the past 5 years about splitting Iraq into 3 countries. Currently, we are already having a unified Iraq. The one that President Saddam, God bless his soul, has been saving and has been trying to furbish along his life. So if Iraq stayed unified, Syria will stay unified, whatever the regime who is on top of it, even Bashar, Assad or someone else, but it would still be unified. There would be no such issue irritating Europe as immigrants, illegal refugees. What happened in Paris was due to what happened in Iraq and Syria. And all the international analysts have stated so. And all the international politicians already know so. So this is why we have seen Russia moving to support, to step in Syria. We have seen Paris supporting Russia and Egypt in their fight against terrorism in the region. And not only stepping in by armed forces or by weapons, no, supporting even economy. Because if you have an economy that gives you out miserable people who are not satisfied with living in the country, or are not satisfied with their regime, with their lifestyles, they would be trying to make illegal immigrations to other places, which would be the back door to terrorism, to hide in, to go there. And this is what was proven in Belgium during the past few weeks.
Right. Let's go to the Gulf today. And the headline reads, accusations fly over Saudi hospital fire that killed 24 people. Accusations flew over who was to blame for the deaths of at least 24 people in a Saudi hospital fire, with one official saying a crowd that gathered there had obstructed rescue workers. The blaze on Thursday tore through the intensive care unit and maternity ward at the General Hospital in the southwestern port city of Jazan, capital of the Jizan region, one of Saudi Arabia's poorest areas. The Saudi deputy health minister said that 141 people had been injured in the fire, the latest in a series of accidents that have killed hundreds of people at Saudi public facilities. How do you view such incidents?
Actually, all what we can say is God rest their souls in peace. It's a region nearby the fire line, so God be with them.
Indeed. Let's go to another headline, and record 12,000 candidates for Iran elections. Iranian official media said Saturday more than 12,000 candidates signed up for the Iranian parliamentary elections. So Egypt isn't that bad after all, huh? Due to be held in February, the most since the Islamic Revolution in 1979. Iran's Interior Ministry said the number of people who registered before a Friday deadline was up nearly 70% compared with the previous legislative polls in 2012. Women accounted for 11% of the hopefuls for the 290 seats available in the February 26 vote, up from 8% last time. And the proportion of candidates below the age of 50 increased from 67% to 73%. How do you view the Iranian elections?
Actually, what concerns me more, not the Iranian elections or the parliament or the candidates itself. What concerns me, what would be the outcome of the 12,000 would result in a few hundreds. 290 seats. Okay, 290 seats. Who would be in such seats, and how are their ideologies formed? How would they interact with ongoing tension with the U.S. regarding the nuclear fire. Along with this, I'm concerned also who would be in the Oval Office by January 2017. These elections are going neck to neck with the party debates. Especially the major two parties in the U.S., we are hearing about most speculations going around Mr. Donald Trump or Senator Donald Trump, and Secretary Hillary Clinton. So we are talking about two opposite sides, two different ways of dealing with the issue. How would this parliament would deal with Mr. Donald Trump if he comes, and how it would deal with Secretary Hillary Clinton, especially she was a woman who headed Secretary of State for the U.S. for 4 years, and she knows the nuclear fire war and already negotiated it much. And this could be a conclusion for not only 2015, but a conclusion for an era.
Indeed. Before I move on from the Iranian file, Iran has played a very big role in the Arab region. Yes, in the Arab Spring, in the Arab region. It still continues with its rebels and fighters in several Arab countries. How do you view the Iranian strategy in the Arab region?
Iranian strategy is mainly linked so much with its nuclear file. As long as you will not mess with our nuclear file, you would be safe from our toxics. Egypt itself, as long as we were opposing their nuclear file, we were going in debates on the diplomatic range so much. But as soon as we stand aside, we have been friends. when we came back saying, okay, if you want the nuclear file to pass, make it safe, make it for peace uses, make it for such
energy generation.
Exactly. We started having some hasslement before President Ahmadinejad leaves. But after that, the ideology of the president who came and his supporting parliament was a little bit different. So we felt a little bit ease during the past 2 years. But the coming parliament is a big concern for us.
Indeed. Right. Finally, let's go to ChinaDaily.com, and the headline reads, Japan says armed Chinese vessel enters Japan waters. Japan's Coast Guard said on Saturday that a Chinese Coast Guard vessel that what appeared to be gun turrets entered territorial waters claimed by the Japan side in the East China Sea, adding that it was the first such incursion by an armed Chinese vessel in the disputed area. The vessel was one of 3 that appeared in the waters of the disputed Senkaku Islands, known in China as the Diaoyus, shortly after 9:30 a.m. and left Japanese claimed waters about 70 minutes later. The vessel had first been sighted in the area on Tuesday afternoon. And on Wednesday, according to Japan's Coast Guard, at that time, China said its vessels were carrying standard equipment and doing nothing wrong in Chinese waters. Now, China and Japan often take turns at throwing accusations.
I'm feeling like I'm...
You've heard the story before.
Not only I've heard it before, if someone read the development of the Japanese people book and the Guns of August, regarding the First World War, sorry, you would feel, come on, are we in 2015 or are we 1908? Come on.
Do you think that such echoes, often we hear the international community commenting about such incidents, and the United States says that China should not transgress, and then Japan responds, and there's always tit for tat when it comes, especially to these disputed islands. It's a very sticky point for the two countries.
Of course, it's very tricky, not only sticky, it's very tricky, but let's take it from the top, and let's take it analytically, not only commenting on the news piece. We are talking about a place we have North Korea, growing giant, with a very tough president, very tough leader. His ideology is based on be with me or be my enemy. On the other side, there are 2 currently friends but old best enemies. Over not only decades but over centuries, over 6 or 7 centuries, there has been fights between China and Japan. So each now and then, both current friends and old enemies start to tackle each other to see what would be the reaction of that sleeping giant. Would he take the side of any one of them, or would he be neutral? This is issue. The other issue, of course, Japan and China is Japan and China are mega industrial economies. They need energy. They export. China is the first oil user across the globe. Japan also needs oil, and the China Sea is known with its high reserves. Accordingly, each would try to impose his regime or his security or pose his hand on such reserves to claim it. If you could recall with me the same issues that happened with Iraq and Kuwait before the August 1990, and what led to the invasion of Iraq to Kuwait, and what happened after that. All this, as we say it in analysis, history repeats itself. We need to read in history quite well to know what will happen.
Indeed. I'm afraid we've run out of time. Mr. Nader Khidr, our investment advisor and our guest for this afternoon, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we wrap up this afternoon's edition of The World Today. Many thanks for watching.